and welcome back to Wargaming World and to a new launch, and it's the launch of Fantasy Wargaming World Solo. So, question is, what is new with the Fantasy Wargaming World Solo? So, actually, a great deal. There's lots of new elements to it in terms of magic, monsters and flying creatures that I'll go through in due course. But just to start off and say what is consistent. So the same thing is we are running through a game against yourself. It is you against the virtual you. The process of doing so in terms of the approaches of the enemy forces are the same, and indeed it's the same format in terms of size. So we're talking about 10 units per side and the format running from there. So let's have a look at the rule set itself and see what is different. So the actual rule set is similar in physical size to that of the original. I'm making the assumption, of course, that most of the people who are watching this video already have the rule set. It's printed by Caliver books again, and it's a lovely feel to the book with, as you'll see as we go through, lots of pictures and detail. Now the first thing is to say, what about the actual name itself, the ancient land of Lexium? Where does that come from, and why? And where it comes from is, well, in part from this sci-fi novel of 10 years ago, and my thoughts were is that if we had Lexium 9 and a man-made planet, then certainly what we should be able to have then is go back in time into the ancient lands of Lexium. Okay, so let's have a look at the book itself, and just start off with the index, just to show that there is full detail all the way through about all aspects of the game, and it's easy to start off with this helpful guide. Right from the start is the introduction of the characters. So through the book itself, we've got two characters in Jonas and Olgarth. Now, important about these characters is that they are immortals. So I've referred back to the ancient land of Lexium, so we've got immortal characters who are going to lead your forces. Now, throughout the book, there is also, at the start of each chapter, a story being told about our immortals and how they fight through the rule set. And naturally there are scenarios as well, and included within the appendix. When we come to the actual troops themselves, we're talking about an introduction of something different. So we have captains, but also in our standard units there is an introduction of apprentices and champions, and how we include magic within the units themselves. Now, throughout the book, you'll see all the way through there's a lot of pictures, and it's been beautifully produced from Caliver books. And so in chapter 6 we have the introduction of magic. Now, it's tricky to add magic into the games, particularly when we're playing it solo. So how can we make sure that all of the spells that are going to be undertaken aren't sort of pre-planned, and therefore becoming the dominant aspect of a game? So what's the element that's been introduced? Well, one idea to keep things relatively simple is to give a list of spells. However, you have to roll to see which one is delivered, and on top of that, what we're really looking at is about illusions, so that the fighting can still continue, but it is interrupted in principle through the magic that is deployed by illusionists. Now, it really isn't going to be a fantasy game if we don't have the introduction of monsters, and critically there are 3 types of monsters. So we have rational, and we also have the instinctive and chaotic. Now, not only are there different types of monsters and different ways in which they are operated, but the reality is that also if they are wounded, it's a particular issue. The monsters are controlled by master handlers. The master handler themselves at some point may find themselves losing control of their animal and coming back at them in terms of vengeance. Now, we've separated out flying creatures from monsters, allowing us then to have a thought of 3 different types. So we've got lightning attacks, we've got swarms, and then we've got dragons. Again, there are different ways in which they operate, and indeed there's the possibility of fighting amongst themselves. So there's even air combat built into the rule set. Now, of course, if it's going to be fantasy, we've got all sorts of different types of troops. So it'll be goblins, orcs, elves, lizardmen, whatever you want. The idea is to bring in whatever forces you've got and bring them onto the tabletop. Now, of course, we've got our solo player and the activation and how it operates for the solo player, and in comparison we then have our virtual you and how decisions are made. But importantly, incorporated within this rule set is how we do things like magic, how that connects in terms of monsters and flying creatures, and how the rule set works through in terms of decision making. Now, one thing to point out is that players will be familiar in terms of the actual approach and the way in which we control the virtual you and how decisions are made, principally about whether they continue or change their behaviour around these 3 areas: cautious, measured, or bold. Now, of course, we've got areas like shooting, as well as movement, melee, and morale. But introduced into the rule set itself is an understanding of the ancient world of Lexium, an understanding of the Guardians and their introduction and role. There are campaign options and the ways that troops gain experience during a game. And of course, there are scenarios introduced to show you how to play the game and how it works step by step. And of course, a whole series of army lists of different creatures. And finally, a quick reference section, so you can go back to the various tables and go from there. And there you have it. So, Fantasy Wargaming World Solo, just been out for all of a week or so, and thanks to everybody who's given great feedback already, and obviously purchased the rule set. Look forward to seeing lots of games being played. I'm going to put a new video out so we can see how the game itself is played, and indeed thanks to everybody who has already purchased Wargaming World Solo, the historic version. So thanks for your time, and I'll see you again soon.